understand all these things happening in her head. Look at that. She has become the character. She next edition we will put you on the cover. All right, take it away. Thank you guys.
Hello, everyone. Hi. Oh my gosh. Hi. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much, Ellis. I'm honored to be here, to be sitting among like, two very brilliant authors. Welcome to Ake Festival 2025. All right, so let's get into it. So before we start, I have 3 rules. Please, no side talks when we're talking. Thank you very much. Then please put your phones on silent so that it doesn't ring out while the conversation is hot and. Yeah. Sorry, you can't take the team out of the guests. That's just. And then lastly, let's have fun. Can we have fun? All right. Okay, let's get into it. So, Enke,
One, Alpha.
Marv.
Hello.
We're here to have a discussion. Like, they're just spectators.
Okay.
They are just listening in on our private conversation. So, yeah. So it's your first time here at Ake. How has it been? It's your second time.
Yes.
You haven't been here in 8 years. The last time you were here was 8 years ago.
Oh,
And now
gosh,
you're
yes.
here with a different book and in a different genre, might I add. The last time it was a mystery,
thriller, yeah.
thriller book, right?
Yeah.
How has it been? How has the experience been? Day 1 is gone. This is day 2. How has it been? Who wants to start? Do you want to
Me.
start?
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
It's been great. I just want to say my friends have a bingo going about the words I'm going to use. I'm trying to avoid those words. But it's been surreal. It's been amazing. It's been a remarkable time because I've spent the last few weeks touring Nigeria and just going from city to city. So to finally be at Ake for the first time, it's the honor of my life to sit here and talk with you all about this book and this remarkable work, and just to meet everyone. People are surprised I know their names, but I be stalking. So yeah, but it's been great. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me, LS. Thank
Let's
you,
give a round of applause.
everyone.
Yeah. Okay, and for you, how's it been? How does it feel to be back on the stage?
I'm very happy to be back. Every year that I am not here, I am somewhere just jealous and simmering envy. So I remember in 2017, I had just met Miss Lola for the first time, and it was so random, but she's just such a joy and so welcoming. You'd have thought she'd known me forever. And I just thought, oh my God, please tell me to come back. And like you said, that was a different book. It was many years ago. And when I wrote this, I remember calling her and saying that you have to read this book. I know you're not fantasy girly, but you will love this one because I wrote it. And it's just, there's no festival like Ake. I live in London and I go to a lot of festivals, and genuinely, there is no one like Ake.
Period. Period.
The food, the people, the vibes, it's just, yeah, if I don't come next year, I'll be sad.
All right, thank you so much. So you mentioned touring. Speaking of touring, you both have been on tour since the release of your new novels. How has that been? How has the reception been for you internationally for the book? And how has your own tour been? You've been touring Nigeria. Are there any like special experiences you've had in the cities? And yeah, how has your own experience been? So let the lady talk first. Yeah.
Yes, it's been like a month since the release, and a lot of my touring has been within the UK. So I'm very happy to be out and be in the sun. But it it completely changes the way you see like your work when you meet readers. Because I've just written this in the middle of the night on my laptop, just to my husband who's tired of hearing about it. But to see people who've read it and engage with the characters, I'm just like, oh yeah, I did write that. And that is what I meant. And many times people read my books and they say, oh, I love the commentary on this. I'm like, yep, I absolutely intended to do that. It's not just something that you've picked up. And so it completely changes the experience of being a writer because it can be quite a very solitary job. So I love being on the road. It's exhausting, but I love meeting readers. I love getting to talk about
Awesome,
my book.
awesome. All right.
I agree with everything he said. And for me, it was, I wasn't sure I was going to tour at first. I hoped I would. And then, I got the emails and they're like, Amo, pack your bags. You're going here. I'm like, I'm going where? You're going to Calabar. Okay. And after that, you're going to go here. And after that, you enter the train and go here. And I'm just like, okay, yes, I'm interested and I will go. And it was so surreal to meet everyone and in all the cities, from the amazing conversation with Abdul Karim in Abuja to going to Calabar to meet with the people that I wrote the book for, and then going to Kaduna to meet a literary community that I didn't even know existed and was thriving so well. And the amazing, I've seen some of them at AK already, and it was amazing for us to be. It was amazing for us to interact in that way and to see people engage with the work. To see people engage with the work in ways that I didn't even anticipate was one of the most important things to have happened, and I'm so grateful to have done that. And I'm looking forward to all the other days.
Wonderful. So now let's get into the serious questions. We're serious now. So neither of you started off as fantasy writers. From my deep dive into your personal lives, I'm not sorry. You didn't start off as fantasy writers, and we all know that writing fantasy is tasking. It requires a lot of effort, a lot of research, and the world building, the storytelling, the characters are very brilliantly written. How much research did you have to do to like give us this world that we now have? You give us like an inner society of urban Calabar as we know it now, but you developed like an entirely fictional like Yoruba land. So yeah, how did that? How was the process in creating that?
It was fun, is one of the words they said I'm going to say. And that was great. And for me, research was a lot of walking around. I was still in med school when I started writing the book. So for me, it was a lot of going around Calabar and recording videos of places I already knew so that I could like really study them in a way that I could put to the page. And it was also research into secret culture and things that they said I should not say. But it was great that I was able to find out so much about my culture in it. Like, I didn't know that some of these things existed. And then there's the stuff I made up because there was research to do. And it was a lot of people sending me sociology papers. It was a lot of people sending me papers on witchcraft practices in my region, pre-colonial witchcraft practices. And then, moving forward, it was research that was very rewarding for me because it helped me to reaffirm my identity. And then with writing the book, it was then, how do I tell this story? How do I tell our story in a way that not necessarily pleases everybody, but in a way that leaves the people that matter satisfied? I'm the person that matters the most, Sha, and I was satisfied. So that was great. And for me, research was just studying papers and trying to immerse myself in a place that I'd already lived in for years, and it was rewarding.
And for you, Marv?
For me, very similarly, it was a mix of research and a lot of interviews as well of Yoruba people, starting from my own family with my mom and my grandma and other people around. So I wanted to, so Yoruba, as we know, is like very based in oral tradition. So I wanted to hear from people the stories that they had heard and how they interpreted it. Because I then introduced the pantheon of Yoruba gods into this book, and as doing a lot of research and papers, and we tend to we write things down more in recent times, but we haven't always. So a lot of it had to do with memories and what people remembered and how they interpreted that. And I just wanted it to be as authentic as possible as well. And one thing I found that was really interesting is when I'm looking at this pantheon of Yoruba gods, they're the ones that we're all familiar with, like Shango and Ogo and Oya. But in my research, then you find out that Yoruba people that left the continent as a result of maybe slavery and all of these things, they then kind of maybe not create new, but add to the pantheon. And as introduced to a new world of gods that are considered to be Yoruba gods, but people here may not even have heard about them. And that's just because they've evolved with the stories that people take and then tell their own generations, almost off continent. That was one of the really interesting things that I found out through research. But like you said, it's very much a way of honing your own culture. You know, Yoruba people have existed since 1 BC, so no one can really tell you you don't, you know, have space in this world because, like, I was probably here before you. My people were here for a very long time, and it just allows you to be quite deeply rooted within your culture. So that was very enlightening.
Amazing, amazing. Okay, so speaking of storytelling and world building, I would like people to read from a section that will help situate the readers when we come into your book. Like, give us a sense of what your book is about. So, do you want to go first? Okay.
So this is the prologue. It's a birthing scene. In the UK, I always have to start with trigger warning. This is a birthing scene. So, Moremi, 9 blood moons and 1 day. That was how long Moremi hung in the balance between life and death. The cool evening breeze sent shivers down her spine. This was the night she had feared. With every passing moment, she realized how wildly unprepared she was for it. Searing pain washed over her. She shut her eyes, forcing herself to breathe through it until the intense, sharp pain dulled into an ache. Thoughts of her mother raced through her mind as she lay on the floor over layers of mats and wrappers. She wished more than anything that she wasn't miles away from home, scared and alone, with only the older woman by her feet shouting at her. Moremi glanced around the empty room. No matter how beautiful, it was no place to be born. Her child ought to be born into the ocean like she was, like her mother was and her mother before her. At home, she'd be kneeling in the wet sands at the edge of the sea, feeling the salt water rush in and out of her, stinging and cleansing, preparing to greet the child, whose first cry will be born from the cold, born of water, born of Otutu. When she closed her eyes, she heard the rush of the wind and the crash of the waves on the rocks that her home was built upon. She wouldn't have been pushing alone. She would have had the force of the mighty ocean urging her child into the world. She could see her sisters standing barefoot in the sinking sand at the shoreline singing to her, and she could feel the rhythmic strokes of her aunt's heavy hand drumming against her back. Most of all, Moremi could hear her mother's voice pouring her strength into her. She needed that voice, but with every wave of contraction, it seemed farther and farther away, and a surge of heat consumed her. She felt sudden tightness in her chest. Panic overwhelmed her. Her lips trembled as she cried for the mother she'd feared she'd never see again. The other wives of the high priest had their mothers with them in the days following the wedding. They followed them everywhere, washing their feet and braiding their hair. But here she was, a stranger in a new world, wishing that at any time in her 21st sons, her mother had told her how much bringing forth life would feel like death. Calm down, Moremi. I can't hear your child's heartbeat if you keep screaming down the temple. The midwife's shrill voice cut through her thoughts. Oh God, help me, please, Moremi prayed, and lifted her gaze to the reddish-brown walls that seemed to close in on her. On them were sand portraits of women, wives of past high priests. Their dark eyes peered into her soul, hundreds of them. Had they been as terrified as she was? Had they left this room alive? A few moments later, the midwife's eyes locked with Moremi's. Her shoulders dropped and she shrunk back. I hear nothing. I wrote this scene with Miss Lola in her house, and we're literally sitting on the floor, and she's like, "How would you be pushing?" And just like, and if someone's hitting your back, and if you're on all fours, and how do you move? And that was exactly the scene that we just read. We had to quite literally practice it, and I think about that every time I'm writing a scene in terms of making it immersive. Sometimes you do have to get on the floor and like pretend to be pushing.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And if you guys want to clap, please clap. Like, thank you. All right. Let's get into yours.
Hi, everyone. I will also be reading from the prologue, from the point of view of our cover character. Her name is, and I've been asked to pronounce this multiple times. Her name is Afem Abayedwo, which translates to Afem the 50th, because she's her father's 50th child. I know, scandalous. Yes, that too. Okay, Afem Abayedwo. Afem Abayedwo had not bled, not since the knife that took her eye. Death sharpened her gaze, and now she saw everyone through the entropy of their decaying cells. To see death was to see the umpa that filled the walls of her father's house. She could sense its motion as it flowed through the building, and she subconsciously tasked it to hold up the house and quiet the groans of the building's shifting weight. To see death was to be death. To be death was to feel death in everything. Her feet ached, but the fine bone ash between her toes leaked its odudu into her. It numbed the pain, albeit slowly. To be death was to feel umpa in your very breath, and as Afem drew in the cold night air, it flowed through her chest and healed her bruises. To be death was to be a power even beyond the basin of the gods, whom, in their immortality, could never understand umpa. That understanding made Death Odudu her family's heritage. Death gave what it took from others to her, reminding her it was hers to control. But with its power came the pain of mortality. She could not use it to recreate what was destroyed, to rebuild what was burned. She could not use death to make life. Afem sat at the foot of the Bone Chief's throne, gnawing on the inside of her cheek, the tapping of her foot, muffled by advisors, speaking over the lifeless body of the man they once bowed and scraped for, arguing that she must abide by the secret peace or plunge the city into a war for atonement, a war she would undoubtedly win. For Quor, for the bone house of old Marian. The hilt of her knife jutted out of his chest. Ofyang the Bone Chief, blessed be his name, Lord of Edom and voice of the gods undying, was not a man of excessive movement, not when he could move armies of corpses without lifting a finger. She half expected him to sit up and ascend the throne, glowering down at them with his usual disdain, but she knew he would not. The memories rained down like a shower of bones, thoroughly overwhelming in their noise. Her knife breaking through Ofyang's chest, the blood he coughed, red, now the same as a mortal devoid of umpa. The feel of his calloused palms on her hand as they struggled. Afem took a deep breath. Conflict scarred the throne room. The large stained glass window that dominated the far wall had shattered. The upper levels of the room were devoid of their regular audience as Kor sat in its grief, raging silently. The ground around the ornate mammoth throne shimmered with sand and bone ash that called to Afem. She glanced up at the ceiling mirror, but she knew the rest of the room was watching the staring in her father's body. They all sat silent, eyes on the knife as it began to jerk, and a courtier grabbed the woman next to him. The bloody knife squelched through the bones and sinew of her father's chest as it changed form into the bones of a snake. The snake spread out its ribs and crawled down his body into the sand, slithering through the deathly still room, only to rise again at her ankle. It climbed her steadily, up her leg and across her back, till it nestled around her neck. She remembered when it first called to her, how the snake clicked and slithered around her, and how, with his air manifested, her father could not hide his pleasure. She remembered his bent smile and his hollow eye. An eye for an eye, Abi, what do they say?
Thank you. All right. So, um, you've both read from very exciting parts of the book. I feel like that's enough. The chat can end here and you can
We
go and
can
buy the
go
book,
home,
right?
yeah.
But no worry, we still have time. So you mentioned relationships, Moremi and her mother, and then Afem and her father, and your your books are both driven. Your stories are both driven by relationships, and not just blood relationships, friendships. And these friendships are characterized by the sacrifices that these characters, namely Afem and Laurie, are making for the people that they love. So I'm very curious. Are these relationships inspired by real life people? And I have a follow up question. Do you think friendship and sacrifice always come as a package deal, or can one exist without the other? Do you want to go first?
Yes, yes to inspired by real life, but not in the way you would think. It is more, I guess, an observation of family dynamics and how we can be with our parents and how the sacrifices your parents make for you that you don't know of, or the sacrifices that you make for your parents that they're not aware of, and how that can come into play in the parts that we carve for ourselves in the world. And yes, a big thing on TikTok these days is that the cost of friendship is inconvenience. And with every day, we always find that we're giving something to get something, I guess. I'm constantly, not doing something I would rather do so that I can do something for my friend and vice versa. And we can't survive without our friends. My mom always says, I'm not there every day. The people that are raising you are your friends. And every day I pray that God gives you good friends. And I've been lucky to have great friends over the course of my life. And yeah, it's friendship.
Shout out to friendship.
That's a friendship.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Clap. If you want to clap, clap, clap. Thank you. Okay, and for you, Mark.
No, they're not inspired by real people in that way. I'm hoping that the book reads more like a folklore, very much like a story you would hear Tales by Moonlight, where someone's reading the story to you. And in the book, there's a narrator that starts and she says, so it is you the God sent to hear my Ashuri. And that's like, Ashuri means secret. And so it's like she's telling you this thing that she knows. But when we hear about so in Yoruba land, it's possible to be deified in that you've lived and then you become a god. So we hear things like, oh, Shango saved or your empire from this, and then he became this god. But then you're thinking, what did he do on days off? Like before he became a god, did he have friends? Did he, his wives, did he love them? How many did he have? Did he have friends who would sacrifice for him? Was it the love of friendship and sacrifice that drove him to being this person that did something so great that he became a god? So it's almost like the life and times of the gods when they were human is what I'm going for. And you never really know kind of how far you go. So I have people often say to me, oh, Laura, my main character, she's doing all of this for a boy. And I'm like, no, she's doing all of this for like the world that she has. So she's grown up knowing that she has one friend and she has this adoptive father that's raised her. And all of that's threatened. And for her, threatening either of these two people is threatening her entire world because those are the only people who speak to her. Those are the only people she knows. And so she very viscerally reacts to that and she goes all in. I'm going to tear the world apart so that my own world isn't disrupted. And that turns her into this force of nature that completely disrupts her world. And on the scale, it's perhaps not equitable because the two people that she's trying to save and the many people who get in trouble because of it, the scales are not quite balanced. But I think I'm trying to show how far people go when their worlds are threatened.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. So I want to read two very short sections quickly. Then it's a preamble to my question. So I'm going to start with Firstborn of the Sun. Okay. Means I'm doing a reading. sorry. Let's go back to being serious. All right. Strategy, not rage, Command said, as though her commander could read her mind. Laurie nodded firmly, her eyes fixed on all three men. Somehow, she felt like even Command wasn't there ordering her steps. She'd still hear, she felt like even if Command wasn't there ordering her steps, she'd still hear the woman's deep voice echoing in her mind. Keep your feet light on the ground, Command's voice boomed. Who they talk for there? Yellow Teeth shouted, glaring at the shadows before lunging at Laurie, a deep grunt rumbling in his throat. Laurie waited for him to get close enough before throwing a punch with her left hand, and he caught it. A roused smile crept up her face. The charred cloth was better than charred skin. The man pulled her close, and as he swung his head to slam it into hers, the stiff edge of her fingers met his throat. A long, dry heave erupted from him, followed by short, ragged gasps. Laurie went after him, pulled him forward, and kneed him in the face, breaking his nose and tossing him to the ground. Keep moving, Command said. Yellow Teeth was on his feet again. He cackled, revealing his now crimson-stained mouth. What were these guys made of? Exhausted, Laurie lunged forward, landing on a single leg. She'd miscalculated. With only one foot on the ground, he took advantage of her mistake and swiped at her leg, sending her face first into the sand. Recover, Command said briskly. Blood and sand clung to her lips, filling her mouth with a sour tang of metal and clay. She groaned as the heavy weight of his boot dug her face into the ground. Command's voice echoed like a distant bell in her mind. Struggling beneath his weight, Laurie used her hands to twist at his ankle when suddenly his foot was off her head. She looked up to see Yellow Teeth on the floor next to her, blood pouring from his mouth. Someone pulled her off the ground, and she knew by the feel of his hands that it was Alawani. Okay. If you want to clap, clap now. I don't like these half claps that you are doing. Okay, so now I'm reading from The Bone River. I forgot to tell you guys the page. So for The Bone River, I'm on page 30. Okay. To be a freelancer, she had to practice more than River House. Come on. But she always avoided Mpa. She'd even taken the long way around Diamond Hill from Mobile to avoid any contact with the borders of Kor, the Bone Chief's domain. To find herself here, in front of a murky mass of Umpa with more bones and sinew than any single animal should have, meant her luck was at an all-time low. Her backpack was not yet fully attuned to her needs, so by the time she pulled out her items of choice, the disturbance was already slightly taller than her and had formed what resembled a mouth with rows of serrated teeth. It had to be some kind of Umpa construct. How do you kill something that's already dead? She twirled her hunting weapons. Years ago, she had paid Ete Ekon in more cash and odd jobs than she would have liked for the 2 wooden quarterstaffs carved from the branches of a tree from beyond the effic tangible realms. H leveled the staves at the creature, ignoring her racing heartbeat. Why are you standing there now? She shouted, without knowing if it understood her. It let out a forceful shriek that caused her to stumble. She beat her staves together as she felt a rush to her ears. She had missed this. Okay? So, even for movies, fight scenes are tough to execute, and you can imagine what goes into it when you're writing the fight scenes. So my question is, what did you have to read and watch to be able to give us? Because that's just the beginning of the book. There are so many other fight scenes that just it's like you are the one fighting. You're like literally immersed in it. So what did you have to read? What did you have to watch? So yeah.
Fightings are hard. And they're hard because it's very difficult to do more than she punched him, he moved, then he fell. You're trying to fill in the gap. And so I had a writing mentor one time who said you had to be in the fight. So very often my husband and I would be like, so if you punch this side and I move, do I fall or will I remain on my feet? Because the assumption is, oh, you're so good. But like if you trip or your ankle just moves,
Yeah.
you fall. If I fall, then what happens next? And so it's a lot of physical acting. I also just go on YouTube and type fight scenes and I just watch all. And so I can see what I want to happen. And then I make sure that I'm in my character's mind and I'm seeing the blows as they come. And here I thought it'd be funny to use their descriptions of the people she's fighting. So we have Yellow Teeth because his teeth are yellow. And when she first sees him, she's almost like disarmed, like how good of a fighter really are you if your teeth are yellow, is how she thinks, which is why she gets beat. And she's also thinking, where is Alawani? Is he coming? What do I need to do? And then she can hear her commander's voice in her ear telling her, move, stand up, do these things. All of if you're watching a movie, you can't hear any of that. So it's just what the writing on and literature gives you insight into the character's mind that you won't be able to get on screen. Because on screen they will have to just do cool stunts, and you think, oh, that was a cool fight. But in the book, she was thinking, oh, he has yellow teeth, in the middle of a fight, which I think just transforms it from she punched him and he moved left. That's what I was trying to go for.
Thank you so much. All right.
You don't know how long I've been waiting for this question. Thank you so much for that wonderful question. I don't know how to fight, but I'm obsessed with immersion. And for me, a fight scene is a place where you get to learn a lot about the character, about what they are made of. So for me, I wanted, like Marv said, to be in their head, and you don't get the comfort of that in movies. A fight scene in a movie that is hoo ha 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 is about 10 seconds, but on the page, I get to put you in their planning, in how they're going to approach it, and they're thinking fast, so it's pacing as well. So for me, I love anime. I'm a little obsessed with some anime.
Anime fans in the house.
Yeah, so if you've watched any anime and you're watching an anime fight scene, you're like, ah, okay. And it's things shattering, it's people flying, it's dialogue, it's conversation. Very few things do it like anime. And then, and this is in the bingo, I apologize again. I'm obsessed with this series, Pierce Brown's Red Rising. It is a space opera, but I do not think I've ever read fight scenes done anywhere like that. And I read that and I'm like, God, will I ever be able to write fight like this? And I studied that. I studied videos of fights. I studied my favorite fight scenes from everything. And then, as this book is chock full of, we're fighting. Every day we're fighting this book. Because we're in the middle of a Calabar that is in strife, that there is conflict. So things are on edge and fights breaking out, you finding yourself up against this massive thing with like teeth and you somehow have to fight it is the thing. And I enjoyed writing them, and I'm never going to stop writing fight scenes. No matter what I'm writing, they're going to be fighting.
All right, thank you so much. You guys finished work with the fight scenes. Like, they were absolutely brilliant, and I felt like I was the one throwing the punches. Okay, so moving on. There's a lot of overlapping magical concepts in both your books. From depth magic, the depth of magic, to energy tracking, to cloaking. Two very similar ones that I found in both your books are the Henshaw House in the Bone River and Aduke's house in Firstborn of the Sun. So if you want to know what those are, go and buy the book and read it. So then there is also for you, there's the magical spell that allows you to travel 7 days in one day, and then time kind of, takes back what you stole from it. And then for you, there is H, going back in time, traveling back in time with an ancient headdress. So yeah, like I said, a lot of overlapping magical concepts and all of that. How did you decide what you wanted the magical systems in your books to look like? And for you, how did you think it would play out in a hyper-religious readership like Nigeria? So,
Okay.
you can go first.
Okay. So when I was writing this, I wanted it to have two primary magic systems. I'll explain it so that if you've not read it, it will make a bit more sense, perhaps easier. On one hand, in the blurb, you see that everyone in this kingdom has something that we refer to as Agbara Oru, which is translates in the book to the power of the sun, the ability to harness the magic in the sun. And everyone in this world has it except our main girl here, Laura. And to hide that, she has to use a different kind of forbidden magic. So the other half of the magic system is something I refer to as old magic, and this is where I pull on the Yoruba myths and the pantheon of Yoruba gods that we have, like Shango and Ogun and Oya and the rest of them. Now, in this world, because everyone has Agbara Oru, they inherit it from their parents. You can be as strong as you can be. It's something that you can train up. off completely. Again, that adds stakes to it because if you're drowning, for example, if you still would not be able to call upon the God you know would help you if you hadn't called upon them before that time.
Wow, interesting. Interesting. Are we enjoying the chat? Great, great, great. All right.
So in our Calabar and in real Calabar, Calabar is bordered by the Great Kwa River and the Calabar River. And these two rivers have their deities in real life and in the book. So for me, when I was designing the Calabar that I wanted to write, it was about drawing on what we already had, drawing on the fact that the masquerade society exists and practices in Calabar, even as I'm speaking right now. And so we had that. And then I really just wanted to write death magic and fire. Like, who doesn't like a fire lord? So for me, I then had, as Marv said, politics and intrigue because all these people manifest the power that we call Odudu in different ways. And then we have this tenuous circumstances that we're then dealing with. And for me, writing that in a hyper religious country was fun because when I was traveling back home, my mom was like, "You're going to Calabar for like, I." She literally called me and said, "Please don't go." And I'm like, "What do you mean don't go? Like, there's a tour. Like, I have readers waiting for me." And she's like, "You know what you wrote?" And I don't know. Like, they, and I'm just like, "Relax. It's magic. I'll be fine." And I went and I came back and nobody accosted me, thankfully. So for me, it was doing something that hadn't been done with my culture and with my law and the traditions that I grew up hearing about and like the masquerades that I'm running from like as a kid, not just as a kid really, as an adult. And just having that in my book in a way that hadn't been done for Efik and Ibibio, like law and mythology was just an absolute pleasure. So I told myself, you may be scared or you may be worried, but just do the thing that you're scared of doing and see what happens. And now, hi everyone. We're here.
Thank God nobody accosted you in Calabar because me, I would have run you out. You're on your own. All right. So I have a language question. Um, I have a language question that involves the text scattered in your books, across your books. For you, you create excerpts that are supposed to be from ancient scholars and their studies and scrolls and whatnot. Can you tell us a bit about that and what you think they contribute to your book? And also, um, did you think that your strong use of ethic would affect the internationalization, sorry, of your book? So,
Um, no, I didn't think it would affect it at
okay.
all. If anything, it would be something new, something that people hadn't read before. And in my approach to the magic system and to the excerpts that you referred to and to the communication in the book, I wanted to be sure that the characters sounded the way we sound. So anybody who lives in Calabar hears or reads the dialogue and is like, yep, that's exactly how we talk. And then with reading the papers, the names, the stuff that is being discussed is stuff that I read, discussed in research pertaining to what I was writing about, and then said, okay, we're taking that and we're using that to write up these um, words that are supposed to help immerse you even further in the world. So I wasn't info dumping as much because to me, I wanted to be writing at a frenetic pace. I wanted the stakes to stay. Oh my God, we are in a rush. So yes, I had opportunities for world building, but the excerpts helped.
Right. And for you, there is a lot Yoruba usage. You rely on a lot of historical proverbs, idioms, adages. Did you go looking for it, or did it just naturally flow from you as you were writing?
Oh no, I don't know none of that. That's my grandma. I have her on WhatsApp and I send her a voice note and I say, this is what I want. And she sends it back to me in
Oh,
Yoruba.
wow.
And then I send it to my cousin who then transcribes her voice note into Yoruba text with the diacritics. And then I paste it in the book and look smart.
Got it,
So
got it.
it's a chain of command.
Got it. And to follow up on that, how has the experience been like? Because you were published abroad, how has the reception been? Because of the amount of there's a lot of it's very yeah. So how has that been?
I often say this again. I go back to the folklore thing in that you are listening to someone telling you this story, and I wanted it to be a very Yoruba book. And even when I write, I often say that the reader is a guest in the world. So you're observing these people. It's like you're a ghost. No one can see you, and you're seeing it play out. So I often say, even when I'm in the UK and on tour, you're a guest in this world. So they will speak the language they speak. There's like why we've translated it for you. There's a pronunciation guide, there's a translation, there's all of that. But even in the audio, I needed it to be a Nigerian who speaks Yoruba, and I'm really grateful to have gotten that. But that's because the parts of it that are in English it's just so you can read it. Within the world, they're speaking Yoruba to each other. So the parts that are in English are actually the parts that are translated for the reader. But even when you're reading it, you're a guest in this world. So you can't go into someone's house and tell them to change their language. So
Facts. Thank you so much. Okay, so we're about to start the Q&A. I hope you have your questions ready. So before we start the Q&A, I have a quick question for you both. You both have very formidable villains in your story. I can't let this book child go without talking about these wicked people. No, you have to. Those that have read the books, maybe for you, but for
He's wicked.
for Nke's book,
I even
no.
like him.
So what goes into creating? Because if I see characters like that in real life, I'm going to run away. Like, what goes into creating characters like that don't even exist in real world? Like, what goes into creating that? So,
Thank you so much for that question. Yes. I wanted to write a character that every time I wrote something he had done, I would be like, anyhow, sha, and keep going. And Okone Fire is one of my favorite characters to have written because he's one of the first characters I knew. I was literally studying, and I'm going to sound crazy. It felt like the name fell on my head because I just opened a journal and I just wrote Okone Fire, question mark, question mark, question mark. Who is he? On a line. And then I'm like, okay, he's the antagonist in this story, and he manifests his Odudu as Ikang, which is Elder Fire, which is Hellfire. He's different. He's wicked. And unfortunately, the artist made him good looking, not my intention. And I had to tweet, please, because I've seen it happen time and time again where people begin to justify a villain's actions by like, I tell you what, mate, like, he looks nice. But like, Okonadafa is a wicked man. And you will not believe how wicked he is till you read it. And for me, I wanted to write an undefendable villain because I didn't want anybody to be defending him. By the time you're done reading the book, you realize, God, I beg.
It definitely was not defendable. Okay.
in my book, there are two people that are on the wicked scale. There's Alpha Agba, who is just desperately trying to upheave everything that's happening in the political world. However, my favorite character on the wicked scale is Iyaye, who people call her the mother of life. And so she is responsible for training and raising this group of maiden assassins. And she's tough, I will say. And she also has healing power, which does not help because she loves to torture. And her girls hate it because she won't teach them the healing power either. And one of my favorite lines that I kind of had people say as well, when she's sending them off into this torture chamber is, "You're my favorite one, don't die." And, and she says that to every single one of them. They are very skilled, I will say. But when I look at her life and how she treats these girls, one of the assassins who is after Laura is Milua. We get to see how she battles with everything she's been trained to do. And so, people often say, by the time you hear the backstory of the villain, you think, oh, maybe I understand it. But I'm trying to draw a contrast between Milua, who is raised by this woman and all she knows is what this woman's taught her. But as she goes out into the world, she's finding herself changing against her will. And so it's almost like, is it really how you're raised, or is it like who you are? And we get to see them through to have a proper fight because Milua will do what she wants and EIA will always demand submission.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, so going to start the Q&A now, and I see 2 hands up already. So can we have the mic? Okay, so to hi.
Hi. Hi. Okay. So, thank you. My name is Ray. So I was actually fortunate to read both of your books as arcs and loved them so much. I actually have a general question for both of you, but maybe an individual one as well for each. So my question is that both of your stories star like young female protagonists, basically sort of leaning into their sort of not really uncovering their power, and they both end with both of them fully realized, often in dangerous ways. So I wanted to ask, what was planning that character arc like? And then the individual question, actually, to Afem, I mean to Nke. Afem and H.
Is that the question?
Are we there? Are we not there? Is it, that's just that's the individual question. Like,
Do you
Afem and
understand
H.
this question?
I do. Don't worry, I understand. Thank you so much. First, I'm not
Can't read the
allowed to
book to
spoil.
understand.
I'm not allowed to spoil. Um, First
Go
question.
and buy the book if you want to know. If you want to know, okay. Um, character arc. Character arc. And then,
Yes. For the characters, for me, it was important that we introduced them and their view of the world, and then had that worldview challenged over the course of the book again and again and again and again and again. Like, we're beating the sense into you, which is what you want for your characters. You want your characters to experience things that challenge their worldviews, and then they learn sometimes the wrong lesson or the right lesson, and then even then they still don't succeed, because sometimes you don't succeed even when you know what you're like, what is right, what you're meant to do. And by the end of the book, I liked where we were. Good. Yeah. And for Afem and H, Sapphic fantasy is fun for me to read. I'm obsessed. If you leave me here, that's all I'll talk about. But are they? Yeah. I hope so. I hope the end game. It's important for me that love in all its forms was showcased in the book. Friendship, family, and for Afem and H, it's you've gone through all these things, and like, you need your people, you need your friends. H has been away for years, and by the beginning of the book, she's coming back to Calabar for the first time to meet the people that she ran away and left. Like, imagine your friend leaving you despite everything. And then for Afem, it's I've gone through all this. You were my only friend, and you abandoned me. So now we're then in a place where we have to, yeah.
this.
Thank you so much for that question.
Okay. So yeah, for you.
So with Laura's character arc, she has a lot to learn, and you can tell by the early chapters. If you start reading it and you think, oh, is she a bit annoying? It's because she has a lot to learn. And one of the main lessons she needs to learn is that she needs to weigh that balance I was talking about, the scale of how much does it have to cost to keep your world as it was. She doesn't like change very much, and she tends to sometimes do more harm than good, but she means well. And I read some reviews, and someone was like, Laura just needs to understand that people don't want to do what she wants to do. And I'm like, yes, that's what she's trying to learn. But it's hard when you feel like you have control over something that was so hard fought and hard earned, and someone just far away from you is trying to destroy that. So her learning point is that people have their own journeys and they don't always have to come with her. Um, so, and with Lauren Alawani, it's pretty much the same thing that she's trying to, they go friends to lovers. So we get to see them go through that journey through the book. But it is a trilogy. So it's a 3-book arc. And I also hope that they're endgame. But things are hard. Relationships are hard.
Just promise that. Just
Oh, yes, sir. There is.
Oh, I can talk. I can talk. Can I talk? I mean, it's funny to me because it says 1 on the side. So yeah, we're going somewhere. It's going to be a fun ride. Everybody stick around.
Okay. So there's another person here, and then there's a lady at the back. Okay, we'll soon come to this side. Please, quick and we'll soon. Time is.
Okay, so my question is for OM. I know you set out to write a sapphic fantasy, but I couldn't help overthink into some philosophy in the book. So in the book, there is a piece that is basically a lie, but that lie has been effective at saving lives and stopping these 4 houses from, doing what they want to do to each other. And I sort of related that to our real life, where we have like 17 countries that have nuclear powers that, also want to kill each other. So I thought that if a piece is if a lie is effective at keeping peace, in that scenario, would we want to reclaim truth? Wouldn't it be more dangerous to do that?
That is a very good question. Shama has been stressing me all tour. Thank you for that question. Without spoiling, a big part of the book is the secret piece. It's this unspoken agreement between all 4 houses that we're not going to mess with ourselves because of something that we cannot even talk about. It's never spoken, it's never written. It's just, if you know, you know. Your father will tell you, Hutang, that means do not talk about it. But Nkpomi, Ido Nkanga this is not a normal place that we're living in. So, what we experience in the book is the cost of the lie. And what we're experiencing in this world is the cost of all the untruths that have been told, the ways that we've been taught or not been taught about Nigeria's history in a bid to keep Nigeria going because we refuse to go through this truth and reconciliation that is necessary. So I believe you people shouldn't have lied 500 years ago. But here we are now, and I do not think that the truth or reclaiming the truth will end us. If anything, I think it will bring us to a point where we are then able to recognize that we are very different, but all of us are the same because Odudu is different in so many ways, but in the end, it is really just Odudu. Like, you can practice anyhow you want. You can live anyhow you want to. We're the same person. We are the same people, regardless of where you're from. We're human beings. So thank you for that question.
Okay. There's just one question there, and then we move to this side of the hall. The lady in green. Thank you.
Hello. Okay. Thank you. My name's Temi, and I just
And
wanted
stand
to-
up so we can see your fine face now.
Oh. Hi. My name's Temi. So we've seen recently a president that there is a book that's been turned into a Hollywood film, and I can see that for the both of you too. So my question is, who would you like to play the main characters? Bearing in mind with that previous book, there was some kind of controversy in who they casted. So who would you cast?
I believe we all know the book she's talking about. Okay. We don't need to use our.
This is the secret part. If you know, you know. If you don't know, you don't say.
Okay.
Let's keep going.
Okay.
Okay. To make movies are hard, and fantasy is expensive to make, and that's what people say. So when wants to make a movie out of it, sometimes if they bring enough money, they get to make decisions that us as writers can't do anything about, just in the defense of the wider space. With that being said, I'm not quite sure who my main character will be. As much as possible, I would, if if this ever becomes a movie, I'm very pro Nigerian, as we say. My audiobook narrators, as one Nigerian who does most of the cast, and the other is Ghanaian. But she does it really, really well. So I would hope that a lot of the cast would be Nigerian. I do have, when I was writing EIA, I thought so much of Shola Shobawale because she's brilliant in King of Boys. And if you read it and you see the descriptions of her, you think, yeah, that's her. So, like, if I ever have a say, I'll be like, in the contract, it needs to be her. But no, it would be so exciting if this was a movie, but it tends to be a really long journey.
Thank you for that question. In honesty, and I'm not like, I tried not to think of anybody the entire time. I didn't, low key. I don't even know what role she would play, but I want Nse Ikpe Etim in the movie. It is important to me that people from where I am are in this because we are going to be speaking a lot of Efok and Poor and Efot, like which is essentially a language that is dying. So it's important that the people are Nigerian, the people are willing to learn and willing to, dialect coaches day. So the hope is that by the end of it, we are left with something very authentic and very effect and very Calabar. So thank you for that question.
Thank you. Okay, so let's move to this side of the hall.
Good morning, folks. Good morning, everyone. Your books draw from tradition, different types. So I'm just wondering who you claim as your literary ancestors and how you see yourself continuing or breaking from their traditions. Literary, both in the fiction side, but also in the oral traditions that you pull from.
My answer is Nollywood is underrated. And I say that because when I think about the research that when I was writing this book, of course they're literary giants, and we all know them. But I genuinely found myself looking at the stories that were written from Super Story, from like many years ago, things that we watched growing up. Because, like I said, when I'm writing this, I'm thinking folklore person sitting in front of you as opposed to writing, and the cadence with which they speak, the stories that they choose to tell, and the fact that, again, if you imagine it to be a midnight, you are tired, you're sleeping, but every word is keeping you awake. That is what I was going for. So I tend to rely a lot within the research of this on the spoken word as opposed to literature. Not that they don't exist, of course, but I watch more Nollywood movies than I would like to say, and Yoruba Nollywood specifically. And that's just because I was going for that. You're hearing this and you're remembering it as opposed to that you're reading it. But there are many literary giants that, we're very grateful they went before us.
Thank you. Any other question? Right. Oh, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Okay, for me, when I started reading Nigerian books and African literature, there were some moments that I like to look back to. This was 2017, 2016, and I was on the internet, and at the time, which is crazy because she'd been around for a lot longer, a friend of mine was like, "Oh my God, you like fantasy and you like Nigerian stories, you should read Akata Witch and Akata Warrior." And I'm like, "Okay, what is that?" And then they send me the books, like they literally sent me the books. And now I'm reading this story that is everything I want to read. A book meeting you where you are is very important. And as I've then gone along, I've acquired so many literary influences and idols. And most recently, we have Suyi Davis Okumbawa and Wale Talabi's fantasy and what they've done in the space, and especially Shigidi and David Mogo God Hunter, which is one of my favorite books. And I read David Mogo God Hunter, and I'm like, are we allowed to do this? Again, it was all those moments where it's like, oh my God, we're allowed to do this. And I had finished writing The Bone River when Shigidi came out, or the first draft anyway. So I read Shigidi, and I'm just like, oh my God, yes, there's a market for this. And yes, people want to read these stories. So yes.
Thank you. Any other question? Because our time is, we have 1 minute left. Any other question? Okay. Just one person, please.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, my question is specifically for Wim. So hearing the excerpt that you read, you pretty much transported me to a place I had gone to every week, Wednesday, 6 p.m. to 8 a.m., Diamond Hill. I haven't heard that phrase, that place in a really long time. And I really love the decision to set it in Calabar. Having grown up there really means a lot. I think I'm curious. I'm curious. Was there ever a time that you thought about setting it in a more, and an even more fantastical version of Calabar, as opposed to the very real version with a few tweaks? And for both of you as well, with writing literature based on your history, your tradition, and the creative liberties that you've taken, how far do you think you're allowed to push?
Hi, Bayo. Thank you for that question. Growing up in Calabar was very instructive for me, and I wanted to write a Calabar that was a Calabar that people would recognize, people who grew up there, people who lived there. So there was no point where I'd already made up my mind that it was going to be an urban fantasy. So I wanted it to be, oh my God, I know this street, I know this place. If I go there and I check, will I be able to pass through that wall? So that was what I was going for. And there's no limits to what I can do. Nobody can beat me. So yeah.
Same. When I was choosing a second word, I often say I imagine it to be the expansion of Yoruba land without the influence of colonization, but with the infusion of magic. So that's what I thought about when I was creating this world. If you look at the map in the book, it's quite literally the map of Africa cut off like at Nigeria, and the Oru sits just where Yoruba land kind of starts. And because I wanted it to both be literal but be a secondary world, but have some references to where we are today. And in terms of how far you go, like I said, you're a guest. You're lucky to be here. So,
all right, thank you so much. It's been real.
Please